Ladies and gentlemen, something major just happened near the Strait of Hormuz. Most people are going to look at this like it's just another military incident. A U.S. Army Apache helicopter went down near one of the most important shipping lanes on planet Earth. The crew was rescued. Thank God for that. But the bigger question is this. What was an American Apache doing there in the first place? Why is the United States operating attack helicopters near the Strait of Hormuz? Why is President Trump talking about a possible deal with Iran at the exact same time this happens?
We are going to issue a report tomorrow.
Why is President Trump talking about a possible deal with Iran at the exact same time this happens? And why does this feel less like a random aviation accident and more like a warning flare over the most dangerous checkpoint and choke point in the world? Because here's the part most of the media is going to miss. The Strait of Hormuz is not just water, it's leverage, it's global shipping, it's Iranian desperation. If that strait closes, if the region spirals, if Iran decides to test American resolve one more time, this does not stay over there. It hits gas prices, hits your kitchen table, and it puts American pilots, sailors, Marines, and soldiers right back in the middle of the fight that Iran may not be able to win militarily. So today we're going to break down what happened, what we know, what we do not know, and why this Apache going down near Hormuz may tell us a whole lot more about the state of this conflict. Before we get into it, do me a favor, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you've not already. Let me know down in the comments, do you trust Iran to honor any deal involving the strait? And do you think this helicopter went down because of mechanical failure, or was it helped by the Iranians? Because I can tell you right now, from a military-minded perspective, I do not look at this and say, well, everything must be fine. It must have been an accident. This is exactly where a miscalculation could turn into a much bigger problem. Here is what we know right now. U.S. Army Apache helicopter went down near the strait. President Trump says the pilots are fine. Nobody's injured. The crew was rescued.
The pilots are fine, yeah.
And what
nobody injured.
So nobody injured. The pilots are fine. Everyone was rescued. That is good news. Let me say this clearly. Anytime American service members come home alive after an incident like this, that's the first thing we should be thankful for. Those are somebody's sons, fathers, brothers, husbands, daughters, mothers, wives. And when you're operating in that part of the world near Iranian weapons, Iranian patrol boats, there is no such thing as a routine day. Now, the cause is still unclear. That matters. We do not know as of this recording whether this was mechanical failure. We don't know whether it was a pilot emergency. We don't know whether it was a hostile action. We do not know whether something happened during a patrol mission. So I'm not going to sit here and claim Iran shot it down. That would be irresponsible. There's too many other people that are going to do that for me. But I'm also not going to pretend this happened in a vacuum, because this is where it matters. So here we have some images of the Apache helicopters, and I want you to see what they're in that region doing. They are monitoring the channel. They are monitoring the shipping. They are tracking and sometimes boarding who is in and out of that area. So this is, a routine day for them. Now, what's not routine is what you're seeing here. And this is some of the exchanges that the Iranians launched at Israel over the last couple of days. You can see here more images of what these helicopters are going through. They're everywhere. And the other thing you'll notice in the background there is all of these tankers. Now, where this happened matters. The timing matters. All of it matters. The mission. The Strait of Hormuz could be the most single dangerous place on Earth right now for a small incident to become a strategic crisis, because one wrong move and we go back to being kinetic very quickly. Now, over the last 48 hours, 72 hours, there have been airstrikes exchanged between Israel and Iran. The president is adamant that he wants to get a deal signed. I hope that that happens. The other thing that these helicopters could be watching is all of these tankers parked off of the coast or off of the shoreline of Karg Island. And this is Karg Island here. This is their major oil depot. And these are all of the tankers parked, waiting to load up. And I'm sure there are these Apache helicopters watching this very closely, as well as the satellite imagery here. Now, the one thing I want you to I want to show you here is CENTCOM came out, Central Command came out and confirmed what happened. They said right here that the crew was safely rescued after the helicopter was lost at sea. So it was over the water. The water it was over, they say last night, was over and down near the coast of Oman. That's across the water from Iran. The soldiers were rescued safely within approximately 2 hours and are in stable condition. So these soldiers were in the water, according to the CENTCOM, for 2 hours. Rescue efforts were led by U.S. Naval Forces, Central Command, and the 82nd Airborne Division. Now, that's where I want to show you something that I found regarding the 82nd Airborne. Now, this goes back to early April. Reports of the 82nd Airborne being deployed to Israel in support of contingency planning. The order was issued April the 7th that they put 82nd Airborne in that area. CENTCOM just confirmed the 82nd Airborne was in that area. They just confirmed basically they were in Oman, and these are members of the 82nd Airborne. With them being there, there has to be other plans for their usage. The 82nd Airborne is not typically the group to go and rescue anyone in the water. The 82nd Airborne went in and rescued the likes of Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor. But when they're operating in and along the coastline, rescuing down pilots, are they up to something else? Now, I'm just using CENTCOM's own information. I'm putting a couple of pieces together here, but it seems like the breadcrumbs are becoming clear. This is another image of one of these attack helicopters, these Apaches. There's 2 pilots on board. They were in the water for 2 hours. That's according to CENTCOM. When I say this is a choke point, I mean it's a choke point. This is not just a map line. This is the kind of place where one crisis, one incident like this sends everything back to kinetic and possibly Stone Age. And everyone likes to think and act like America is immune to this because we produce a lot of amazing pilots and amazing equipment. But right now, we are probably the #1 target for Iran, and they would love nothing more to be able to show on their propaganda network that they took out an American Apache helicopter. The other thing that happened yesterday that the news is not talking about, another U.S. Navy plane, an FA-18, took out, disabled another unladen, that means empty for us, blue collar types, another oil tanker near the Gulf of Oman at this same time. The FA-18 Super Hornet was flying off of the Abraham Lincoln. It fired another munition into the engine room. They failed to comply. They disabled it. They're not trying to sink these. Says CENTCOM forces have redirected 134 ships that we know of. So joint operations, you have the U.S. Navy, these carriers, you have the Apache helicopters. They're flying, they're monitoring, they are disabling things that should not be operating in that area. The oil, if we get a deal signed, you're going to see oil prices dropped. You're going to see that come down. But now we're getting more reports out of other avenues. So a lot of you are going to know this. Some of you might not. But these Apache helicopters, they're operating in that area because of these small boats. They're trying to get and board and verify these ships because the threat's not always a giant destroyer. Now, here's where this gets even more interesting. Trump said the pilots are fine. Then he's also talking about negotiations with Iran. He's talking about a possible deal. He's talking about the strait opening. He's talking about the blockade holding. And that is where I think the real story kind of begins, because Trump appears to be trying to do two things at the same time. Number one, keep military pressure on Iran. Number two, force a deal that prevents Iran from getting a nuclear weapon and reopen the shipping lane. This is a delicate balance. And I know some people do not like hearing that because they want foreign policy to be simple. They want kinetic strikes. They want this situation to be either bomb them tomorrow or bring everybody home tonight. But the real national security is usually messier than that. You've got to apply pressure without losing control. And I think that's where these Apache helicopters are really a tool for the administration. The blockade, it is helping to hold. These military planes operating keep the pressure. The strait can reopen. The deal may be close, but Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. That's the pressure point that we are trying to apply. Now, here's where I think the media is going to get this wrong. They're going to focus on the crash. They're going to focus on the political quote. They're going to focus on whether Trump said this word or that word. They're going to make this about personality. The real story is not personality. The real story is power. Who controls the strait? Who controls the tempo? Who controls the escalation? And these pilots getting home safe shows that we control a lot of those things. That's what matters. Because if Iran believes it can pressure the United States into a weak deal by making Hormuz dangerous, then the problem gets worse. You're going to have a lot of members in the Senate. You're going to have a lot of members in Congress that are going to use this incident to try to leverage everything going back to the way Iran operated for years. And we can't allow that to happen. No matter what, that is the difference. Weakness invites testing. Strength forces calculation. And right now, the Iranian regime is calculating. They're looking at Trump. They're looking at the U.S. Navy. They're looking at the Gulf. And they're watching our news. They're watching Congress. They are looking at oil markets. They're looking for an opening. And they're asking themselves one question. How much pressure can we apply before America hits back harder than we can absorb? That's the line, and that line is dangerous. From a military perspective, here's what I'm watching. First, I want to know the cause of this helicopter going down. Mechanical failure, weather, I'm not sure about that. A pilot emergency, hostile fire, electronic interference, maybe some kind of mishap. That matters because each answer means something different. If it was mechanical, then the question becomes readiness, maintenance, the operational tempo. If the aircraft was operating in a harsh maritime environment, then they take a beating. Salt air is brutal, the heat, constant patrols, the maintenance tempo matters. If it was hostile action, then that is a completely different story. That means escalation. And the president wants to get a deal done, but it would mean also that Iran or their IRGC actor took action against a U.S. aircraft, and that changes everything. That could reset this ceasefire. But again, we don't know that yet. Second, I want to know the mission. Was this a patrol? Was it escort support? Was it operating near shipping traffic? That is part of this deterrence mission. And I want to know the other thing. Was it responding to a threat? Because a helicopter crash during a routine patrol is one thing. A helicopter going down during an active maritime security incident is another. Maybe one of these ships had been boarded. Third, I want to know what assets were nearby. Was there a U.S. warship close? Obviously, there was, because they were rescued by some 82nd Airborne. And was there this quick reaction force? It looks like that. How clean was the communication? How fast did command confirm the crew was safe? Pilots being in the water for 2 hours is an eternity when you think about these small boats, these speedboats that could be converging on them. That means this recovery plan worked, but it took a while. And I'm wondering why. That is why all of this readiness matters. Now, I'm going to bring this back home because some people are going to say, Ben, why should I care about a helicopter near Hormuz? I'm going to tell you why. because America has enemies who study our political will. They study our media. They look at our websites. They study our dependents. They study our military readiness, and they look for places where a crisis can create a big political problem. I'm going to bring this home. An American Apache helicopter went down near the Strait of Hormuz. The pilots are safe. That's the best news in this entire story. But do not let that good news blind you to the bigger picture. This happened at the center of a global pressure point, could be on the cusp of signing some kind of deal. It happened while Iran is under pressure. It happened while the United States is maintaining military force in the region. It happened while Trump is talking about a deal. It happened while the Strait of Hormuz remains one of the most important economic choke points in the world. And that means the story's not over. Next 24, 72 hours matter. If the official report says mechanical failure, then we watch readiness and tempo. If it suggests hostile action, then we're in a very different situation. If the deal moves forward, we watch what Iran actually gives up. We watch how this opens back up. We watch for any other retaliatory strikes. That's the real story, not just the Apache down, not just the Trump comments, not just the Iran talks. The real story is whether America is still able to impose order in a world where our enemies constantly probe for weakness. And folks, I'll tell you this, when America projects strength, our enemies calculate and they cower and they look for an opening. And right now, this could be the opening that they want. Let me know what you think down below. Do you believe Iran is looking for a real deal? Do you think they're using negotiations to buy time? As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll keep breaking down this without a cable news spin, because this is where the headline meets the shipping lane. And this is one not just about a helicopter. It's about who controls the next move.